All right, this is State of Play, a segment on the Signal for Distant Signal guys. I'm talking to Jason Kothmann today. He is an editor with me over at on the Dead Files, but he also has a really kick-ass hard rock band called Interstelar. And Jason is the lead guitarist, singer, and lead songwriter for the band. So Jason, why don't you tell me about Interstelar and how you use your day job editing to fund this passion project that you've been pushing up the hill for, God, what, maybe a decade now?
Yeah, it's been a long haul. First, I'm not the lead guitar player.
Oh, you're
but
not?
I do no, I play guitar. I'm the lead singer, and I play guitar. I play rhythm guitar in the band. I say songwriter guitar, but I have a lead guitar player named Gary Gladson who's fucking incredible. But thank you.
Sure.
Yeah,
Who's in the band?
going.
Who's in the band?
It's Gary Gladson is on lead guitar. PJ McMullen is on drums, and Joe Puccio is on bass guitar.
Great.
And they all have sort of their own side projects in addition to Interstellar that they do as well. Gary. He won like the first runner up in a guitar solo competition, the Jimi Hendrix Foundation guitar solo competition in the 90s.
Wow.
He's like a really impressive guitar player. And then Joe, the bass player, he plays in another hardcore band called Moth with a guy named Dewey Bragg, who's he's just an incredible frontman, really great singer. And PJ is an accomplished photographer and has played and toured in a bunch of bands as well. So I feel pretty blessed to play with these guys.
And now we talk about Interstellar quite a bit at work, and I know that you've been pushing up that hill for a really long time. How long has Interstellar been around?
I guess we played our first gig and with a totally different lineup in about 2006, 2005, 2006, something like that. The original drummer was Jeff Murray, who plays in a band called The Shrine now, and they've blown up. They've been touring the world for 6 or 7 years now. they played with Fu Manchu, and they were on Ozfest, and they're pretty great. They were at the Shepherd Ferry art opening that happened in LA about a month ago.
Cool.
2 months ago. They played that show.
But what about you? What about Interstellar? Because I know you fund Interstellar with your editing job. Editing reality TV shows, films, what have you. Talk to me about that. What's that like for you?
I just sort of fell into editing when I first moved to LA. When I first moved to LA, I came from Austin, Texas, which is obviously a much smaller market. Certainly was then. So you kind of had to be good at a lot of different things. You had to be kind of a jack of all trades. So I was a camera operator, a shooter. I was a grip. I was a light tech. I was a boom op, a live sound mixer, and an editor on occasion. But
that's kind of the film industry, isn't it? Like the film industry, definitely you find yourself bouncing to a lot of different gigs because they're all so wildly different.
Well, and where I was at that point in my career, I had to take any job that came my way. So I had to know how to do anything. So I did all those jobs. And then when I came to LA, it's kind of the polar opposite of that, where you have to be, you kind of need to be hyper focused on sort of one thing and get really good at it and just become the person that they call when they need this thing done, whatever that is. So I'm the editor for creepy reality and low budget horror stuff. That's kind of my thing.
Hey, that's not a bad place to be.
Yeah, I'm very happy with the way things played out as far as my day job goes. And that, as you said, that funds my music habit. So I'm able to pay my bills doing something that I genuinely enjoy doing. You know, editing is an artistic process, even if it's a frustrating one at times. It's artistic, and it involves a lot of creative decision making. But you know, when someone's paying you, ultimately they're the ones that are making the decisions.
Sure.
Which
But
I
yeah,
think,
but even as an editor, you probably do make a few thousand decisions per episode, because every choice you make, every cut you make is a decision. And
yeah,
and I mean, that's good. I mean, I do the same thing when I'm doing story producing. I can choose to remove lines or bits, and that's somewhat creative. But as far as Interstellar goes, I mean, I know that you and I both do that. We work so that we can fund our habit. And I like that you called it a habit, because at times it sort of feels like that, because it feels almost pathological. We could just be happy doing story producing. Yeah. It's great. It's perfect. I need nothing else. But I sit there story producing, and I by my own estimation, I do a really good job. But but you know, in the back of my mind, I'm always like, I should be doing this other thing. And it's like a little voice that just kind of pokes me and makes things feel a little less shiny when I'm at work. Do you experience that?
Yeah, sure. I mean, of course, like if I'm doing like, you know, 3 pages of notes on something that I spent a lot of time working on, and people are like, oh, we need to change a lot. We're changing the direction of where this cut's going. So we're going to, you know, make a lot of changes to something that I've already worked on. I'm like, oh man, I really am not, I do not want to change these things. Like I had them a certain way the first time because that's how I thought it should have played out. That's how I thought it should look.
So do you think that the reason why we call it a habit is because we're addicted to the thing that we're making, or the power we receive by being able to tell everyone to go fuck themselves when they want to make a change? Jason, you there? Uh-oh, I lost Jason. Oh no. So we're still recording, so I'll keep talking as we try to get Jason on the phone here. But I sometimes worry that what I'm doing when I have this sort of pathological drive to make stuff outside of work, which I should be totally satisfied with because it's awesome and I get paid a lot of money to do it, it feels like maybe that I do these things just to feel powerful for like a little while, so I can just make what I want and tell everyone else to go to hell. Let's see if we can get Jason on here. Hold on a second. Okay, so hey, so are you streaming anything else?
We're back.
We're back. We're still recording. Are you streaming anything else, like music or anything like that in the house?
Not that I'm aware of.
Probably just an interruption. So my question, I want to reiterate my question, which was, do you think we do this, that we make stuff in this sort of pathological need to do it, like you called it, an addiction, because we are addicted to the thing we're making, or because we're addicted to the power we have to be able to make whatever we want and kind of say, this is it, it's done, it's mine, it represents exactly what I want? Do you think it's more egotistical or something else?
I mean, I guess it depends on who you're talking to. I mean, like I'm sure it just varies from person to person, but I mean, for me, I like the collaborative process. Like that's why I'm in a band and not just doing electronic music solo. You know, I could do that. I've got all the stuff I need to do that. I've done it before, but I like, you know, as an editor, I'm alone a lot.
Yeah.
You're in a room by yourself, you know, most of the time. So like when I get creative, when I play music, you know, and I'm playing my guitar alone most of the time when I'm playing my guitar. But when I have other people that want to jam and want to make noise with me and who are executing at the highest level like these guys are, I want to play with them as much as I possibly can. And if I come in with a song or a riff, I'm like, hey, what do you think about this? And they're like, oh, okay, that's okay, but let's change this. Hey, what if we extend this? What if we change keys here? You know, that's fun. That is a magical sort of a feeling, you know, like I think so. I guess to answer your question, being creative, I call it a habit or an addiction, just because it nourishes you in such a way that you don't, in a way that you don't get otherwise. Like if when I talk to people that don't really have a creative outlet, I feel kind of bad for them. Like, it doesn't really even matter what it is. Like if it's, you know, quilt making or knitting or writing poetry or whatever you want to do, that you kind of, there's things that you experience in your life that you just kind of, you've got to I don't know, one has to process that one should process that in healthy ways, and being creative, I guess, is how I do it.
Yeah, I get a sense. I think that the habit metaphor is interesting, because I do find that I get a euphoria from actually completing something and then watching it. So when I finish something, I'll even watch my own stuff on my channel. It's like, oh my God, I did that. That's cool. It's
oh
nice
yeah, it's a rush.
It is. Even if
Sure.
it's just a couple of minutes of,
yeah, it's cool. It's great. That. You know, and like you say, you do a great job. So who's a better audience for that than you?
I'm just satisfied.
You know, like myself. I love, you know, I mean, of course, like the flip side of that is I get really critical. Like the first year that we had our record, that it was out and then we were basically done recording it, I would listen to it. I would just get so worked up about, you know, like some little nuance of the way I sung something, or some way I heard a song. I'm like, that should have been done differently. And I just kind of walked away from it for a few months, and then I came back to it after other people had heard it, and then I started to be able to enjoy it more. But like, I think if you can get kind of, I don't know, for lack of a better term, you can get up your own asshole a little bit.
Sure. Yeah.
You know, where you're just you're listening to your own stuff for so long that you've lost all objectivity.
Yeah, I don't know if making, I guess you do need some objectivity when you're making art, unless you're a complete Dadaist, which, I mean, who the hell's a Dadaist anymore, right? So,
I mean, there's got to be some.
Yeah, and they're called suckers. So Hey,
Salvador Dali begs to differ.
Hey, Salvador Dali, that guy was crazy.
He's a fucking genius.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. But
I mean, I think you could put MC Escher in that category as well. Sorry.
Do you think he was
going off on a Dadaist tangent?
Do you think that MC Escher was Dadaist?
I think that's what he's classified as. I think he was part of that school. I don't know.
I just remember,
my wife would know.
Oh yeah,
she's an art history person.
I just remember watching Dadaist films in college and thinking that I thought it would make a perfect torture device. It was so awful. Have you seen My Name is Una? I mean, it's really experimental stuff. Oh man, it made my stomach turn. But where were we? So we got totally off track. What were we talking about?
Objectivity.
Oh yeah, I guess you do need some objectivity for when you're making stuff, but habits are they're not illogical, but they're definitely coming from an unobjective place. They're very much coming from a place of something very personal and subjective. And so I worry that because they're so subjective and driven by emotions rather than reason, that I tend to get myself in trouble. And like you're saying, you tend to put yourself in your work so much that when something doesn't work out, or you start getting bored of what you're doing, it becomes very, what's the word I'm looking for? I think it can be a downer. I think you can get a little depressed. And I experience and making stuff the way we do make stuff, because we haven't found the market niche. We're sort of making very niche independent stuff, but it's not fitting into the market, so we can't make any money. So it's very costly. So any misstep that we make is dramatic. in its cost to us.
Yeah, I think if you think about the cost too much, you will make yourself crazy.
Right,
I mean, like
which I think necessitates being less objective, which is odd.
Right. Yeah, I mean that's true. Like if you think about how much it costs you, especially if you start calculating hours and how much
Oh,
money you would make
forget
had
it.
you been doing something else, like whatever, you're never going to get out of that hole, or at least not until you really start to generate a lot of money. But I mean, like I was saying before, like it's kind of its own reward. Like the creation process has to be its own reward. Otherwise, why are you doing it? And why should anybody else look at it or listen to it? Like if you're not doing it with some kind of happiness, or you're not getting some kind of joy out of it, even if it's sort of a frustrated, oh fuck, I wish I had done that differently, but you're still like, passionate about it and on fire.
Mm-hmm.
If you're not getting that, if it feels like, oh, I'm just making a jingle for, a soap commercial in my spare time, then why would you do that? Like if you're not making any money at it, like why
Oh,
not get some joy out of it? So that's kind of how I get around the, oh shit, I've spent a lot of time and money on this and it's not, and I'm not making any money in return. Although I have to say the record's doing all right.
is it?
I'm not getting rich, but it's slowly, it's trickling in. People are buying it. It's stoner rock, which is kind of having a bit of a resurgence, or like heavy blues or space rock or whatever you want to call it, acid rock,
So
which
okay, so that's
nobody gave a
interesting.
shit about.
Sorry,
Sorry.
I was going to say, because when I was
Saying
listening
like
to
there's been a resurgence.
space rock. I know this is not ideal. I mean, eventually, if these things continue, we'll actually do a recording somewhere where you have cameras and there'll be no latency and a little more structure. But so you described it as space rock, because I was listening to it today, and I was going to describe your band's sound as a little bit Soundgarden meets a little bit Rush to me, like it's because it sounds a little technical at times. You have a lot of changes in the music, but it has that '90s dry sound, which I think is really
Kind of
cool.
proggy.
Yeah,
Oh,
it definitely has like
thanks.
'90s progressive rock a little bit, but it's got the grunge edge, which I think is really nice. And I genuinely actually like your music. And it's funny,
Oh,
it's
thanks.
actually nice. It's nice to have friends who make stuff, and you actually can really enjoy it. And it feels really bad when you have to say you don't like something.
No, it's great. No, it's really good. Yeah. No, I've had those
It's,
conversations
no,
before.
it's no. What is it? It's oh, he's such a nice guy. I mean, not the band, but I just grew. He's a great guy.
Right. Right.
No, but
Okay, I'm gonna
actually,
start acting like I'm gonna start acting like just a complete asshole. So nobody ever has to do that. Oh, he's such a nice guy, but like I'd rather just say, oh, that guy's an asshole and his band sucks.
yeah, or just to be able to say, oh God, that your band sucks. I'm sorry. Because I've been on a date a long time ago where this girl was like, she wanted to see my work, but she was afraid. And I was like, why are you afraid to watch my work? And she said, what if you suck? And I was like,
pressure.
that's perfect
Yeah.
though, because it was so
Yeah.
honest, and it was like, oh, yeah, what if I do suck?
Yeah. Well, I mean, you have to suck. That's the thing. That's what I tell people. Like, you have to suck for a while before you get good. Like nobody
Oh,
just
for a long
like
time.
Mozart. Even though Mozart was a child prodigy, like he wasn't like writing the first symphony he ever like created wasn't like amazing. The first piece of work that he made was probably something that went in the trash.
Sure.
There's probably a lot of things that went in the trash. Like there's a lot of stuff that I've done that is just like, oh man, it's just not good.
Well,
I should bury that. But you have to keep refining it until you find your style, and then keep refining that and expand on it.
Well, that brings me
It's
to an interesting. I guess it's a problem for today's age, because you would only really release anything that you thought was finished, or that really you felt it was refined enough to show people. And now, because of YouTube and because of all these things, the bar for making something that has quality has gotten so low that it's really become more about quantity than quality. There are people that will disagree with me and say that to have a good YouTube channel, you need good quality. But the other edge of that sword is that even if I made an amazing film, if I only did it once a year, my status on YouTube would go way, way down. And my status all over the internet would go way, way down. So you're encouraged to make stuff every day. So there's no way you can possibly make stuff that is incredibly high quality every day. You're always going to have to sacrifice something to be able to create content, which is sort of where this came from. It's like, I need to lower the bar low enough to make content for YouTube so that I can make other stuff. So it's sort of like a second job on top of the other job in order to make the films happen for the YouTube channel, which I want to grow. So it's the sort of interplay between stuff I have to do and stuff that I want to do.
Yeah, it's a lot of hustle. I mean, there's a band from Australia called King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard.
King Gizzard and the Wizard Lizard?
King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard.
Okay.
They're awesome. They're like a heavy psychedelic kind of proggy band.
Okay.
But they put out I want to say 5 or 6 records in 2017, like full length records, and it's pretty good. Like they're like, some of it's really fucking good, you know. But I think that's kind of what you're talking about. You got to put out but everybody knows who they are. Like in this circle, like nobody's not heard of them if you're into that scene.
Right, and then there's that what they call it, the familiarity bias. I think where you're more inclined to buy or watch something that you know or you've heard of a lot. So I'll never forget that name ever, and I'm sure that'll pop up somewhere because of Google's algorithm.
Yeah, you'll hear something. It'll pop across your feed at some point.
Yeah, at some point it's probably going to do that, and so there's that side of making video content or musical content, or I guess any content in today's world, where you have to keep making stuff so that your name is continuously out there circulating. And I guess maybe it's never been any different, but it feels like you have to produce a hell of a lot more than you used to, just based on what we know of older television.
Yeah, well, in music, like traditionally, the way that you accomplish that, the way you accomplish being fresh in people's minds in a band, is you tour, you go out, you play different cities, so people have heard of you. They see your name in the marquee, and people who see music, who see live rock and roll bands, like they say, "Oh, did you see Windhand at this club?" And then, you know, when Windhand comes to your town, then you're like, "Oh, my buddy checked them out. I want to check them." That's kind of how that has worked traditionally. So I think the live show is coming back around again, which is great, because all real music, in my opinion, all great music has to be performed live. Like you can have a great record, but like a true, I think, I don't know, I'm gonna get in trouble saying this, but like I feel like if you're gonna be a true musician, a true artist, like you've got to perform live and show people and give people that live experience, because that's how music was meant to be experienced. It's just two people in a space, you know, and one of them's playing music or whatever. Like it's somebody. So there's a listener, and then there's a performer, and there's that connection there that you can sort of get it with a record, but you're not getting just that living person in front of you performing.
Right. It's similar to seeing a movie in the big screen. Like there are some movies that are just meant to be seen in an audience on an 80-foot screen because the impact is different.
Yeah.
And so how do you find that now that Interstelar has reached its 12th or 13th year of existence, and you've released this new album, how are you utilizing new media in order to push your album? Because you said it's doing well, which sounds like it sounds like the other album didn't do as well as this one. Do you think that's because of social media?
It did okay. I mean, the other one did okay, but we kind of like, as soon as we finished the last EP, then PJ joined the band, and then we were immediately just decided, well, shit, we need to get right back in the studio and start recording again. So we immediately started writing stuff for the new one, and then Earl left and Joe came in, and then we immediately decided, okay, let's really work on putting another record out, and like really kind of raise the bar of how we want things to sound. You know, let's put out a full length first of all, and make it and just make it sound like a real record, like something that we would have wanted to listen to.
And how many,
And
is this your second album?
this is well, this technically our third. We had two EPs.
Okay.
We had one EP. We had one EP that isn't. It might be on iTunes, maybe, but I don't think so. It's called React. With the first EP was called React in Silence, and the second one is called On Black Waves, and then the third release is a full length LP, which is called Resin.
Right. That's what I was listening to this morning.
Yeah, that's the one. Hopefully that people will know us by.
Okay, so now that, because you've said that touring is coming back around, and I know you've talked about it at work, you've been putting together a tour. Are you going to play just from this album, or are you going to play from your collection just because now you feel like your goal is we have to tour, we have to actually be out in the wild? Are you going to do all three albums, or are you just going to tour this album?
It'll be mostly stuff from the new record and some new stuff that we've been writing since the new record.
So okay. Oh, so you're going to have some new songs out.
Mm-hmm.
That's great.
Yeah.
And how do you feel? How do you feel things are going with in the new media, the world of new media? That because we before we started recording, you talked about wanting to do songs that you streamed live on the YouTube channel, sort of like we're doing now. And my first response was, you have to start doing this immediately. And because I think that would be a great idea. Can you talk about why you want to do that, or what do you hope to accomplish with streaming a lot?
Well, I hadn't. I mean, that was kind of the first time I really much thought of it. Like I like the idea of it. It seems like it's getting to the point where it's not a huge pain in the ass to set something like that up. And the one thing I don't want to do is I don't want to lose the creative moment. Like I'd rather just record something than, okay, I've got this great idea. Okay, let's set everything up, and then 2 hours later, you don't care about the idea because you're so pissed off about trying to get this thing to stream and it doesn't work. Like I've been through that process multiple times.
Just a half an hour ago.
Yeah, exactly. Like, so it's it's to me like a technology, the way technology integrates with the creative process should be like super organically and as intuitively as possible. Like there shouldn't be like you shouldn't really have to think about it much. It should be something you just kind of can do as just a spur of the moment and very emotional decision to just be like, oh, I want to show people this, check this shit out. And then you play something, and then that's immediate, and it has risk to it because you're playing something live in front of people. Like it can go wrong, which is kind of where that live energy comes from. Like if you haven't rehearsed and you don't know your shit, it could go wrong. It can go wrong in a beautiful way. I've seen that happen, like that's what improvisation can be.
Well, I think that, yeah, if you wanted to do something really big and live, you can do that through YouTube. We could get 5 cameras and we could shoot the hell out of a set that you want to play. But what I saw in my mind when you were talking about that was just a wide angle shot, a nice mic for the guitar, and a nice mic for your voice, and that's it. And I think that you could have that set up tonight and start playing, which is, I think, it's the most exciting thing about YouTube in general, or I guess the current state of media, is that we can just plug in and start playing. And I think that's really exciting. I would love to do a live stream when I'm directing a short. I think that would be a lot of fun to give someone like real-time access to making something.
Oh, that would be cool. Yeah, that would be really cool.
It'd be neat. I mean, people to get to see me stutter and trip over myself all the time because it's always so there's always so much going on when you're directing. But it's
stressful. I've only directed a couple of times, and it's so stressful.
There's a lot to remember.
You talk about making a lot of decisions. You're making a lot of decisions all the time, and you've got a lot of people asking you a lot of questions at the same time.
Well, and the decisions you can't take back pretty often.
Yeah, well, you have to commit.
Yeah,
when you're on set, there's no undo. You have to commit. Like, okay, this is what we're gonna do. So hopefully you've thought about it beforehand.
Yeah, and I think that to show that live would be kind of interesting. I don't think I've seen that yet, but I have to invest in a couple of pieces of technology. I got to buy a couple of Blackmagic converters, and so I could link my FS7 or my 5D into it, and then you could just stream and walk around. So that would be really interesting. But I think it would be also interesting for you to set up a little, take a corner of your house, light it up nice, get a couple of mics and just do like one take through a song, even if it's improvised, and then just kind of put it out there as an experiment. Because I think that what's really cool about social media and YouTube is that it gives you a very intimate perspective into an artist's life. And that's where a lot of the value comes in today for artists. It's not just music. It's like the music. Who is this guy? What's he all about? How close can you get to him? It's really weird that sort of everyone's becoming this little miniature, I don't know, not celebrity, but sort of public figure. It's odd.
Yeah, I mean, it's sort of organic, like it's just you're kind of creating a community of people that are just into the super specific kind of style that you're into. It can be like a really tribal almost sort of experience where you have these people that are connecting. But and I'm getting there online to the point where I'm finding sort of this crew of people that are all into the same. We're all kind of in the same, I call it the heavy underground, the heavy underground music scene.
God, that's a great title.
They're all really.
Wait, stop. The Heavy Underground. That is a great title. We're gonna write that down.
Yeah, I can't take credit for that.
Wait, who came up with that?
I heard it from the guy he's a singer for Geezer, Pat Harrington. He has a radio show called The Electric Beard of Doom. They played us a few times.
Really?
They're fucking awesome. Yeah, it's great. Like if you're into heavy rock music at all, you should check it out.
And what are they called again?
It's called The Electric Beard of Doom. It's on Mixcloud. Okay. And then there's another one called there's a couple of really good radio shows. There's the Erosion Factory that's on, I can't remember the name of the app that you use, and then there's Hour of the Riff, there's Into the Void Radio. They're all really good.
Wait, are these like pirated? Are these on pirated radio stations, Jason? Where do I find these things?
No, man. Pirated radio stations. There's like a ship off the coast.
That is the most romantic era of radio that I've ever read about.
It is pretty cool. Well, the thing is, we could do it right now. Like we could be doing that now. Like although it's not. Well, the Erosion Factory is a live radio show, but the other ones are, I guess they're kind of more like podcasts. Although they're not on a podcast app. It's called Mixcloud is the way I get it. It's just they're like these 2-hour long radio shows where you have a DJ and he's telling you about each song that he's playing and kind of like talking about the bands, and it's great. But anyway, the heavy underground, that term, I heard that from Pat Harrington when he was talking about the Psycho Las Vegas festival that he was at.
But why heavy? Why use that adjective?
It just is. Like when you have like a lot of distorted guitars and like really pounding drums and loud bass and.
Okay. So it's describing it's describing a genre of music, of underground rock and roll.
It's the heavy underground, they call it doom rock, they call it stoner rock, they call it acid rock.
God, that's great.
Doom metal.
I kind of imagine that all these concerts have the cartoon or the animated film Heavy Metal playing in the background. That's just such a great movie.
That we would, like, if any of us could afford the rights, we would definitely do that, because that is like that's sort of from where all this was born.
Really?
Is that aesthetic? Oh yeah, it's like all 1979 Heavy Metal magazine, for sure.
That's interesting, because I was a fan of heavy metal as a kid, just because I'll admit, it was oddly arousing as a very young kid, naked,
super arousing, girls totally.
Girls in any form. It doesn't matter what it is. Like you're 13, you're like, this is amazing, and
great.
And it was also really just kind of terrifying. The movie was really just a strange mix of
scary.
It's a great film.
Weird. Yeah.
That and Fritz the Cat.
Introduction into psychic. Oh yeah, that was crazy. Yeah. My introduction into psychedelic culture.
So when you watched Heavy Metal, were you making music at the time?
No, the first time I watched it, I was probably like I don't know, 10 or 11. I had, I mean, I would, at that point I was singing, but I didn't know how to play anything.
Mm. And so you saw this and you thought, that's the scene I want to be in. Weird.
That's the life for me.
Like I need some face melting and some heavy metal with some psychedelic tinge.
Yeah. Well, I was really into the music. The music was what brought me in.
Oh, it's great. The soundtrack is fantastic.
I came for the music, but I stayed for the titties.
Story of our lives.
Mm-hmm.
And so I want to talk more about Interstellar, because I know this conversation's kind of going all over the place, but that's kind of the point. I just want to have a conversation,
Mm-hmm.
not necessarily do an interview. What you're touring, so I want to cut to the chase a little bit and ask if you have any tour dates.
The one we have on the books now is we're playing March 30th at Silver Lake Lounge with a band called Old Blood and another band called With Our Arms to the Sun.
That's a great name.
They're both fucking great. Completely different styles of music, but definitely part of the same sort of heavy underground scene, which is it's a big tent, so to speak. But it's going to be a fucking good show. I think I know you well enough to say that I think you would really like both bands and that you should be there.
March 30th. Okay. I don't think
March 30th. It's a Friday. No excuses. It's Good Friday.
Oh wait, what?
It's a Good Friday beatdown.
All right, I'll be there. What other dates do you have coming up?
I mean, that's all I have. Like, as far as like, that's all I have inked right now. I'm working on a couple of dates. I'm working on something in Vegas. This guy from Portland's been talking to me. I'm trying to get some dates nailed down in like San Francisco and San Jose and Sacramento, but it's hard. Doing it all yourself is hard. And like the booking the shows is kind of the last piece of the puzzle. And I put that off because it's not fun and creative. It's just kind of like, oh fuck, I got to email a million people and see if anybody gets back with me and try to find other bands that want to play the same shows. Like, gigging is fun and getting there is cool, and like being at the shows and meeting new people is fun, but the process of booking is it's just work. You know?
This is why we have to get you streaming, because you could be touring all over the world like every week if you just had something to play. I think that would be great. I would tune in to watch you play anything. I think that would be great.
Okay. All right, I'll do it. I'm going to try to get that set up, but maybe I'll try to do it tonight.
And if you need any help, call me. I'd love to help.
Yep. All right.
So I just think that would be so exciting, because I've got you have a mixer, and does your mixer go into USB into your computer?
I've got a analog digital converter that I use, and then I've got mixers that I use. So
I just think that would be the coolest thing. For me, in my head, my dream for you is you leave editing, you take care of what you need to take care of the evening, and then for maybe just 20-30 minutes every few nights, you plug in, you play a riff or maybe even a song from your album, you say goodnight and go to bed, and you've had your moment with your audience. You slowly build that so that people tune in for every performance that Jason makes, and whatever crazy thoughts you might have, because I know you and you have some crazy thoughts.
I have a lot of opinions.
I know.
A great many opinions.
Oh, I know. I love when my favorite is when we get into edit sessions and you and our executive producers start going on wild tangents for 45 minutes, and eventually I just get up and I'm like, okay, when you guys are ready to work.
Everybody's like, just shut up. Just shut up. We got to get out of here. Let's get some shit done. Yeah.
I mean, that always tickles me. Like when we're doing the notes process and it's like, oh, we only have one more note to do and we can go home. Let's talk about the polar ice caps melting for a while.
One of my favorite topics.
I know. Very exciting. So I think for me, that's my dream. I can come home and we can do this every couple of nights and get paid for it, and then be able to make our art for people so they can enjoy life with us, along with us. Because I agree about your sentiment about wanting to connect with other people. because we sit, you know, we sit at a desk 10 hours a day in traffic for 2 hours a day. And so it's nice to be able to sit down and connect with people. And so that I'm glad that we can take the time to do this together, because this is why I love YouTube. Is for this, aside from having an audience all over the world, being able to connect, I think is really important.
Yeah, no, I think so too.
What else? So we talked about your tour dates. You're going to start streaming. We've talked about the style of your band. We've talked about who's in the band. Do you have any other thoughts about what it means to be making art on the side, like having a side job to make art on the side?
I mean, I think that it's just kind of like, it's just kind of a necessity. Like even bands that I listen to, that I check out that I've been listening to for 20 years, you know, like a lot of those guys, you know, with a really impressive resume of work, who people have heard of, you know, like John Garcia. He was the singer for Caius and Hermano, and I mean a million other bands. Like that was the band that you know, the Queens of the Stone Age came from. And he's like, you know, he's arguably, you know, one of the most important singers in all of stoner rock history, you know, since the 90s, you know, like, but he never really got like any big huge breakout hits. So he was working, I think last I heard, he had a day job working at like a clinic, you know, doing like, you know, as a veterinarian tech, you know, like he's got a day job, but he's out on tour. I mean, I'm sure he's out on tour at least 100 days out of the year, at least, you know, like you get big, because there's just, I won't say there's no way to make money in music, but not too many people have figured out a way to make money at it. So you kind of have to have a day job that is going to allow you to have that. So if you hate your day job, maybe find something you don't hate and that allows you the time to be creative. And it's a slow process. You have to kind of like build a life that allows you the space to be creative. You know, like I've got friends with kids, and like, you know, people taking care of people with disabilities and that kind of thing, where you have as you get older, you have a lot more responsibilities generally. But if you want to be creative, you still have to nourish that, and you have to kind of create space to allow yourself to do that. I don't know. Did I answer the question at all? I don't think I did.
We spend so much time building that space to do what we want to do that it feels like we're wasting our time not doing what we want to do. Even though we need money to eat, there's something something in the back of my mind says that making this stuff is actually so easy now. It really just requires your time, some money, and a lot of time. Really, it's mostly time.
Yeah, it's an investment still, though. I mean, it's like it's easy and it's available. It's probably easier now to get your voice heard than it's ever been.
Right. I guess what I'm getting at is that we tend to get caught up in the making of our life, making our lives so we can do it, and not just actually doing it, which I think that is a mistake, for lack of a better word. Not that you're wrong, because you're right. It's just that we get so caught up in the stress of that, and we get so caught up in actually having to keep that going that we forget to actually make stuff.
Yeah. And like I'll notice that, like if I'm having a particularly bad day, or if I'm like, God, I'm in the fucking, you know, just a terrible mood, and I'm working, and I'm like, I'm not into this at all. I don't want to be doing this. I'm like, well, God, why am I in such a shitty mood? It's like, oh, I haven't picked my guitar up in a week, or I haven't done anything. I haven't been creative in a long time. And it just kind of, you get annoyed. You start to, it is kind of like an addiction. Like if you don't get a fix, you have to kind of work that into your life to where you're getting a creative fix every day or every other day, so that you're not feeling like, oh fuck, I'm fucking wasting my time at a job that, you know, where people don't, you know, I've been there. You know? Right.
So it must come down to discipline. Like if you're going to have any kind of discipline in your life, if you don't take time or have the discipline to make time to make your stuff, then you'll never make it. I guess the end result. I guess I know this is also this all seems very maybe very JV of me to sort of say these things, but these are the thoughts that circulate in my mind. It's the to try to actually have the discipline to get up at 6 in the morning, do some writing for an hour and a half, then go to work, and then come home and see if we can do a little bit of editing. Just because if you don't do that, all you do is spend time making space to make stuff and never actually making it. And so I think that it's great to hear you actually making your music all the time. And it's I love being able to go to Spotify like, oh, that's fucking Jason. That's great. It's good. I'm glad that you actually take the time to actually make that, to actually have the discipline to make it.
Yeah, thanks. There's a great book called The War of Art. Have you heard of it?
No. We're going to change the location, but keep talking.
Okay.
It's kind of awesome.
It's called The War of Art, and it's just it kind of talks about that, like how you have to if you create the space first, then you'll be able to then the act of creation will just sort of happen. But you have to have a space for it. It talks about like just kind of creating this sacred creative space for yourself. You know, for me, it's my garage.
Yeah, for me, it's my desk. Oh, you want to see it?
Yeah,
you want to see it here? This is where I do all my work. You see?
Oh, I love that sign. Oh yeah, that's awesome.
And so here's my.
Yeah, look at that.
This is my tower down here. There's a lot of cables because I got power running everywhere at the moment, and I've got.
Is that a raid? Is that a raid down there next to your tower?
It is. It's a sand raid that I could never get working. So I got awesome Mackie speakers. I've got my mixer, and I've got this guy here, my little blue microphone. Now, some people don't like it, but I think it's fine. But this is where I do all my work. So this is I sit down, my creative space, if you will. I sit down almost every morning to do some writing. So can you do me a favor, Jason? I'm going to mute this for a second on my end. I have to go to the restroom. You keep talking about whatever you want, and I'll be right back.
All right. Let's see. What have I? I plugged the show. Anybody in Los Angeles, you should definitely go to the Silver Lake Lounge on March the 30th. And check out all those bands. And also, even if you're not into this kind of music, whatever kind of music that you are into, you should check out bandcamp.com, because that is the best place to find upcoming artists. Spotify's cool, but nobody's really getting paid for Spotify. But Bandcamp, you actually get paid. Like, the artists will get paid. And whatever kind of music you're into, you'll find something on Bandcamp. Let's see, what am I listening to? Been jamming the Old Blood record a lot. Self-titled. It's really good. It's like a sort of a throwback to the Doors, but a little more like prog rocky. And they have this chick singer who's just on fire. She's really good and like super theatrical. Like, the live shows are like this Alice Cooper kind of a thing. And let's see, what else am I listening to? Listening to some High on Fire. If you haven't checked out High on Fire, you should. If you're a metalhead. The new Melvins is really good. They've been releasing a lot of records lately, like the Melvin stuff. Like, how can you be that consistent as an artist? Like, King Buzzo just puts out a new record every year, and they're all fucking great and uncompromising and interesting and fresh. Like, I don't even know how he does it. Big Business. Been listening to them a lot. Let's see, there's a band from California called Slow Season. It's really good. They sound like a kind of a jangly Led Zeppelin, sort of, like, just like Led Zeppelin's more jangly kind of tunes. Really nice. Like, you can tell, like, they worship Led Zeppelin, but it doesn't ever really feel derivative. It's like it's just more of an inspiration, so to speak. I mentioned the Shrine earlier. If you haven't checked out the Shrine, you should. They're like if Jimi Hendrix was in a punk band, a skate punk band in the 80s. Like if Jimi Hendrix was in Black Flag, it would sound like the Shrine. What else am I listening to? Windhand. Man, if you haven't heard them, that is the most powerful band I've heard in a long time. Like this singer, what's her name? Dorothea, I think. Just this incredible voice. And these riffs are just so dark and heavy and bluesy and emotional. Like Windhand is probably my favorite record that I've listened to in the last 2 years. Grief's Infernal Flower by Windhand.
Thanks. That was awesome. I could hear you from the restroom like, oh, I gotta listen to that band. Oh, that sounds really cool. All right. Thank you for doing that. That was there was something rotten in the state of Denmark, if you will. I
get sick of not talking enough. I feel like I want to just talk all the time because I'm just alone. So
you did good.
It's good.
You did great.
It was good for me.
Completely went. You just riffed and you talked about whatever you wanted to talk about, and I think that's the point of this, which is great. So I think that this is about where we should end it. I've got to get some work done around the house.
We could have ended it before you went to the bathroom.
Yeah, but why would we want to do that? I'm glad
you made me part of your toileting experience. I feel like we're closer as a result.
Well, we can keep talking. I just looked at the clock just now and realized that shit. Well, let's talk for a few more minutes then.
No, I gotta go.
No, it's too late now.
I gotta go. I got this guy I'm supposed to meet. I got a thing.
You are in the event horizon of Phil ABATECOLA.
Oh God!
You never escape. All right, cool, man. Well, I'll see you. Well, I guess we'll talk at least a little bit after this because I want to get some more details about all the things we talked about so I can put them in the description box. But let's sign off. Give me some more information. Tell everyone where we can find Interstelar and purchase all the social media, all that stuff.
Okay. Well, first off, our band is spelled with one L. We are one L of a band. Sorry, but that's how you remember it. Interstelar with one L. interstelar.com. That's our website. And then interstellar.bandcamp.com is where you can buy our music and buy vinyl. You can also get the vinyl on our website. And then we're on Spotify, and we should be up on iTunes in the next day or two. Yeah, check us out. Listen to it. If you're into heavy music, heavy rock and roll, like heavy metal, whatever, like there's something for you there.
Awesome. Well, thanks for chatting. Guys, if you like what you saw here, please subscribe, share, and if you have any suggestions how to make this better, please let me know. And let's sign off, and we'll get some details of for all the description box in a second. Thanks, guys.
Talk to you later.